I'm in prep mode, you know. I'm in like I've got a number of projects that are coming to fruition that involve my acting skills, which is kind of what I have always expected would happen, but it's taken a long time to come to fruition, Simpa, in terms of I used to have like sort of conflict to some degree regularly with casting agents, just because when you come from a stand-up personality point of view, almost like we were when we were talking offline about like the character of Hicks, and don't for a
Mm.
moment think that I'm so delusional that I'm comparing myself to Bill Hicks. Please don't assume that's my intention here. But but imagine like again, it's a bit obtuse, but imagine if Bill Hicks was like going in. Of course, he never would because it was entirely against his ethos, and I'm even embarrassed to admit that it's not against my own to go in and do like an audition for a part in a sitcom or whatever.
Mm.
I always had that like. I didn't have the profile or the confidence of a Bill Hicks, but I'd always be like, my stand up. Do you want me? like like why am I here? And then sometimes it would even actually come to that, Simpa. I actually had like a breakdown of where people are like, you know you haven't put much effort into it, kind of
Mm.
thing. And I'm just like, that's because I'm not going to put any effort into it unless you want me for the part. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not going to like study lines. I'm not going to get this like little vignette that you've chosen for me, my audition piece, down pat, because I'm actually a busy guy, and it may not seem like much to you, but I got a show in Edinburgh tomorrow and another one in Belfast on the weekend, and then I'm in Hull, and I don't even know how I'm getting there. And like, I have a life outside of this, and I'm not really that interested in you unless you're really interested in me. And sometimes it would, again, it would break down to, they're just like, essentially they're just like, you have a massive ego. And even again, like we talked about before, being on online, just like, yeah, like, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Unabashedly, unapologetically, a gargantuan ego. I have to crawl on stage in some of the most like trying environments and be expected to be at least like 80% minimum of my best, or literally the chatter in the industry and everyone around me who I depend upon for like for income will talk about how I've lost it, how I'm no longer funny, how I've got no bones anymore, whatever you want to say about it. So that's the stand up pressure. They don't care if you couldn't find a parking space, Simpa. They don't give it an F if you didn't sleep last night, or for what reason you didn't sleep last night. They care that they hired you and you're there and you have to be your best. And it's just like, that takes a lot of like that stand up in a nutshell. There's like
Mm.
no there's no nights off. There's nights off, but there's no night off when the lights are on you and the camera's rolling. And particularly now when you're just like filmed everywhere you go, whether it's the front row doing it, or whether it's the house doing it, or whether it's your own people doing it, you're literally like on trial every like second that you're wandering onto a stage under the pretenses that you think you're funny. And so I've expected that, like, where is it just that like all the people I've worked with in my career, where are they just not finally just calling and saying, hey, Craig, we've got this great part, you're the neighbor. It's as mental as that
Mm.
story you tell about your the beer bear story that you do in New Zealand. That's what I was kind of thinking of when I wrote it. Can you do any accents? Because he's kind of this
Mhm.
like crazy guy that blah blah ladka gravis, think taxi, blah blah blah. Just like, that's what I've always thought would happen. And of course, I'm like pushing. I'm not, but like, let's say I'm pushing 60. As you get older, you think you're pushing numbers higher than you
Mm.
are. As you're younger, you think you're younger than you are. But I think I'm older than I am. And finally, like literally finally got a message from Instagram, like private messages, hey, get in touch. I got to talk to you. And it's just like, I got lots of buddies who get in touch and got to talk to me. And then I got in touch and I was like, yeah, we're doing a show. Want you to exec produce on it. I want you to be a floating character on it. It's a sketch comedy. It's a spoof news program.
Awesome.
Basically, are you in? And I just like, this is what I've always this is what I'm talking about, baby. This is it. Yeah, you know me. I've had you on my shows and you know what I do. And you're doing a show, and now I'm doing it, and that's like so I've basically been going over lines, getting my characters down pat, doing weekly meetings to basically see where the production is headed. We've got a studio that wants to do it. It's a wonderful, like very modern collaboration in that when we're on a Zoom call with like 9 of us, one's in Florida, the other's in New Brunswick. There's a couple in Alberta. I'm the only European English component. So it's just like that, working collaboration with the technology that we have right now, and the potential once it's off the ground to tour in particularly Canada, but also North America on the back of it. So what I've always wanted, Simpa, just that kind of dovetailing into the next project. I've done a lot of projects, mainly in the UK, but started, sort of up until the mid '90s in Canada. And then there's been, just this utter brain tumor of the last 3-4 years in terms of production, particularly in terms of live performance and production, how they confluence with each other. So it feels like it's finally, the wheels are turning again. And of course, as you'd, and I'm sure many of your viewers would be happy to know, it's awake as F